When people hear the words Sharia law and biblical law, strong emotions often follow. For some, these terms represent faith, morality, and divine guidance. For others, they sound like control, punishment, or ancient systems that feel out of place in the modern world. The truth is far more complex, and understanding these laws requires stepping away from modern assumptions and entering the historical worlds where they were formed. Both Sharia law and biblical law originate from the belief that God provides guidance not only for spiritual life, but for daily human behavior. Neither system began as a political tool. They were responses to real societies struggling with justice, order, and morality. Biblical law emerges primarily from the Hebrew Bible, especially the Torah, which contains laws given to the Israelites over 3,000 years ago. These laws were revealed within a tribal society transitioning into a nation. They addressed everything from worship and ethics to agriculture, family life, crime, and social responsibility. Biblical law was not a single legal code enforced uniformly across history. It evolved through interpretation by prophets, priests, and later rabbinic scholars. Sharia law, on the other hand, developed within early Islam beginning in the 7th century. The word Sharia literally means the path. It refers not just to law, but to a moral and ethical way of life guided by God. Sharia is derived primarily from the Quran and the teachings and practices of the Prophet Muhammad, known as the Sunnah. Over time, Islamic scholars developed detailed legal frameworks to apply these principles to daily life. One key difference lies in how these systems function today. Biblical law, as found in the Hebrew Bible, is no longer applied as state law in most societies. Instead, it lives on through religious ethics, moral teachings, and in Judaism through rabbinic interpretation in Jewish law, known as halakha. Christianity largely moved away from enforcing Old Testament legal codes, emphasizing spiritual salvation over legal obedience. Sharia, however, continues to function in various forms across Muslim communities worldwide. In many countries, it influences personal matters, such as marriage, inheritance, and finance, while criminal law may be governed by secular systems. Importantly, Sharia is not a single universal code. Its application varies widely depending on culture, school of thought, and political context. One key difference lies in legal authority. Biblical law was closely tied to a specific covenant between God and the Israelites. Many laws were meant for a particular time, place, and people. In Judaism, scholars interpret these laws through centuries of debate, allowing adaptation without abandoning the tradition. In Islam, Sharia is viewed as universal in principle but flexible in application. Islamic jurisprudence, known as fiqh, allows scholars to interpret Sharia based on context, intention, and public welfare. This means Sharia has always involved human reasoning, not just literal enforcement. Punishment is often the most misunderstood aspect of both systems. Biblical law includes severe penalties, including death for certain crimes. However, historical evidence shows these punishments were rarely carried out. High standards of proof, multiple witnesses, and judicial caution made enforcement extremely limited. Many laws served more as moral boundaries than practical penalties. Similarly, Sharia includes prescribed punishments for certain crimes, but classical Islamic law sets extraordinarily strict conditions for their application. Confession must be voluntary, evidence must be unquestionable, and judges are encouraged to avoid punishment if any doubt exists. Mercy is repeatedly emphasized in Islamic legal tradition, even though this nuance is often lost in public discussion. Both systems prioritize social justice in ways that are often overlooked. Biblical law commands care for the poor, protection of widows and orphans, fair treatment of workers, and limits on economic exploitation. Sharia similarly emphasizes charity, debt relief, honest trade, and social responsibility. Zakat, mandatory charity in Islam, is a legal obligation, not optional generosity. Women's rights are another sensitive area.
Biblical law emerged in a patriarchal society, and women's legal status was limited by modern standards, yet it also provided protections uncommon at the time, including inheritance rights and legal recognition. Sharia likewise developed in a patriarchal context, but granted women rights to property, inheritance, and consent in marriage centuries before many other societies. The differences we see today often come from cultural practices rather than the original legal texts themselves. One crucial similarity is that neither system separates law from morality. Both assume that law should shape character, not just behavior. Justice is not only about punishment, but about restoring balance, preventing harm, and encouraging responsibility. Another important point is that neither system was designed for modern nation-states. They emerged in pre-industrial societies without prisons, police forces, or bureaucratic governments. Applying them today without context can distort their original purpose. Modern debates often treat Sharia law and biblical law as opposing systems, but historically they share many foundations. Both believe law comes from God. Both emphasize intention behind actions. Both value mercy alongside justice. Both developed through centuries of human interpretation. Where they differ most is in their relationship with modern governance. Biblical law largely transitioned into religious ethics within secular states. Sharia continues to exist in both legal and ethical forms, sometimes creating tension between religious identity and modern political systems. Understanding these laws does not require agreement or rejection. It requires honesty. Simplifying either system into stereotypes removes their depth in historical reality. Sharia law is not inherently harsh, nor is biblical law inherently outdated. Both are reflections of humanity's attempt to live under what they believed was divine guidance within the limits of their time. The real difference lies not in God, but in history, in how communities carried these laws forward, adapted them, or froze them in place. When examined carefully, Sharia law and biblical law are less about control and more about meaning, order, and the human struggle to align life with the sacred.